Pictures don't always change the world, but they do sometimes, and I'm comfortable with that. I had been working on this immigration project for really about 10 years and had just come out with a book in the springtime. And I was on book tour, I was speaking about images a lot, talking to lots of people, and the US government started a policy of zero tolerance. And part of the zero tolerance policy was the separation of families. And so I used the access that I had received over the years with Border Patrol to make a request and go down and photograph them on the border. So I went out with them on what's called a ride-along, which is an official visit, and I had been photographing them as they patrolled the US border. They were chasing people, they were taking people into custody, and late one evening, a family started coming across in inflatable rafts from the Mexican side across the Rio Grande into Texas. And I took some pictures of them coming across. It was very dark. It was a moonless night. And they made their way up through the woods. I could hear them crashing through the brush. And they came into a clearing on a dirt road. And the Border Patrol agent I was with and I came upon them, and he shone his spotlight on them. They looked very tired. Some of them looked a little bit afraid. And he called for transportation, and other agents came. They started taking people's names. They told them they had to take off their jewelry, their wallets, purses, shoelaces, really everything aside from the clothes they were wearing. And then they patted them down and put them into transport to a Border Patrol processing center where they would either separate or not separate parents from children. And so I saw this mother. She was holding her 2-year-old. I spoke to her very briefly. They had come from Honduras. They'd been traveling for a month. And the agent asked her to set her child down while the mother was body searched. And during that brief moment where the child was set on the ground, she was very upset. She started crying. And it was an example of separation anxiety for that brief moment. And there was no way for me to know whether they would be separated or not, because that was always decided away from the lenses. You could never see that. So I was very clear about that in the caption. Luckily, I found out later that they weren't, which was a great relief to me. But for many people, I think that image became a symbol, really, of the zero tolerance policy on the border. And there was no way for me to know at that time just how many people would see this image and how many people it would touch. As photojournalists, especially like me, working in this business for a long time, there's no way to know which image will really touch people's hearts. And this one certainly did, and it was published really around the world. I've never expected that sort of attention. Several days after I took that picture, the New York Times used it on their front page, and after that it started getting used really on front pages all around the world, and quite a bit on social media. And the image in its original form has a caption which is very specific. But on social media, oftentimes captions and context are taken out. And I've learned in this business, especially now in this age that we're in, we don't always have control of our imagery once we let these pictures into the world. And this picture was used correctly in so many places. In other places it was used in ways that got away a little bit from its original context. And we have to accept that that does happen. And I still feel that if I was to write that caption today, it would say exactly the same thing as it did then. They were taken into custody and sent to a Border Patrol station for possible separation. And I was very happy to find out it didn't happen in their case.